Joining us now to discuss this is Matt Dathan, the Home Affairs editor at The Times, who got this exclusive story. Congratulations on digging this one up, Matt. I mean, what was your reaction when you first heard it?
I thought it was an early April Fool's, to be honest. I couldn't quite believe that we'd be paying hundreds of thousands of pounds to celebrities to post messages on the Home Office's behalf, but that's exactly what they're planning to do, at least.
But isn't this where the eyeballs are, and therefore you've got to pay money to the people who can influence those eyeballs?
Yeah, that's the Home Office's argument, that the people smugglers have been so successful on advertising these trips on the likes of TikTok and other social media channels that you've got to beat them at the same game on the same channels, and particularly on TikTok, because the government has a ban on the use of TikTok, so it can't advertise directly on the platform like it does on social media like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. In Albania, France and Bulgaria, Belgium, for example, you've had Home Office adverts warning migrants that if they come to the UK, they will face deportation to Rwanda.
Matt, I can sort of see that if you are, a young person, quite desperate, wants to take your chances on a boat, that maybe you would be influenced by, what a TikToker or social media influencer might tell you. But is there any evidence that that sort of messaging might make a real tangible difference? And which countries, you just mentioned, but Albania, we're led to believe that we're sort of on track for cutting the numbers significantly coming over from Albania. So which are the main countries that we're talking about?
The Home Office has tried to target the countries that account for the largest numbers of migrants crossing in small boats. But the problem is, as you say, they're slightly a step behind the latest numbers. Albania made up 13,000 of the crossings in 2022, but last year this was down to about 1,300. So they've kind of identified Albanian influencers who they will try and target. They haven't actually approached them yet, but the reality is that actually last year in 2023 there were very few TikTok adverts on advertising these routes. So the Home Office is also targeting Iraq, Egypt. They're also targeting Vietnam and India and Turkey, and trying to find influencers who can spread the message not to come to the UK if you're an economic migrant.
And Matt, this is obviously taxpayers' money that's going to be spent here. How will they know it will have the right impact, and how will they audit its effect?
That's a very good question, and the question that actually MPs and us journalists have been asking the Home Office ever since they started and announced the Rwanda policy. There's been no, hard evidence to suggest it's going to deliver value for money. In fact, the opposite. The Permanent Secretary at the Home Office had to admit that the Home Office does not worked out a value for money assessment because there is no evidence to assess this on. The response from the government would say this is a novel approach. This has never been tried before, this kind of Rwanda policy, and the same goes with paying influencers trying to stop migrants making a journey in the first place.
And Matt, what sort of money are we talking about that these influencers are getting, and how many? What might the whole budget for the influencer bill be?
For Albanian influencers, and the Albania plan is the most advanced, they're capping the payments at £5,000 per influencer, and I think they've got a budget earmarked of about 30,000. So you're talking about six influencers there, I think, for Albania. But the problem is we've revealed a story from a leak, a document that was being leaked before the Home Office has even been able to approach those individual influencers who they've identified as potential targets. And several of them have come out today and said they have no interest in posting messages on behalf of the Home Office. One of them, Fabio Daja, said that his TikTok account is all about social phenomenons and it's not about politics or anything else, and he just posts random thoughts about day-to-day life, so he has no interest in posting messages warning migrants from his country not to make the journey to the UK.
I was going to say, as far as I'm aware, the reason that influencers have influence very often is because they're cool. I don't want to sound like an old fogey using a word like that, but they have influence, particularly over young people. Now, there's nothing less cool than saying, I bring you this almost this political broadcast on behalf of the Conservative Party and the Conservative government. You can just see it's not really going to sit with their brand image.
It also makes me wonder who's shilling for other governments, which influencers over here Australia ended up might be being paid by other governments to spread a particular message to the nation's youth through TikTok. I mean, is this revolutionary, what the British government say they're up to, Matt, or is this just sort of par for the course by governments around the world?
Well, I've not come across governments paying influencers to spread messages on immigration, but it's certainly a phenomenon that happens on other issues. For example, one of the influencers that have been identified, Ben Washburn, he's an American travel blogger who fell in love with Albania and posts lots of messages about his time in Albania. Well, he's done paid advertisements or paid posts. I don't know what you call it, marketing posts for the, I think, Visit Albania tourist board, for example. So it's done in other sort of environments, but I haven't come across it in terms of the immigration environment. I mean, they're not very happy that they've been named. They've because they haven't been approached by the Home Office yet. But I guess you can't have it both ways if you're an influencer. If you're happy to put your life on TikTok, which can be accessed by anyone in the world, then if you're going to be named in newspaper articles as potential targets, then I don't think you've got too much to complain about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've certainly done your job by naming them, your job as a journalist, but I can understand they'll be absolutely spitting feathers about the fact that they've been named as potentially being of interest, to a Conservative government in that way. But actually, you were just saying, Matt, that TikTok is available to use by everyone in the world. That's not quite right, because it's not available, as you said a bit earlier on, to government workers. Just remind us what the deal is, what the issue is with TikTok and the government and civil servants.
Well, the ban was introduced last May, I think it was, the cross-government ban on use of TikTok because of the security concerns around the fact that the company was founded by a Chinese company, and the suspicion, or that there is some evidence to suggest that the Chinese state has some influence, some access to the data that's gathered by TikTok, which is denied by the company. But that's why it was banned by the UK government and also other governments across the world as well. So yeah, I'm wrong in saying that it can be accessed by anyone in the world, but it can be accessed in most countries at least.
By most children. Matt, just finally, I suppose in the round this speaks to the government's desperation to try and stop these boats coming over. They are willing to chuck as much at the wall as possible in order to see what sticks. I mean, do you have any hope that this might work or even come to fruition now that you've exposed what's going on?
Well, it's part of the wider advertising campaign that the Home Office has planned to roll out alongside the implementation of the Rwanda policy. I think there's a realisation in the Home Office and wider government that you can't just start flights to Rwanda and expect it to create a deterrent effect to stop further migrants coming across without those potential migrants knowing of the consequences they'll face. It's a bit like telling a criminal not knowing that they'll face prison if they commit certain crime. So I think there's a massive part of the Rwanda policy is the messaging around it. And so I think we will definitely see a massive advertising campaign, but whether they go ahead with paying influencers following the backlash from our story is another matter. I'm not sure they will.
I think I can go further than that, Matt, and say that I think you, Matt Dathan, have killed off that policy very successfully by highlighting it and publishing it in the Times. So maybe you've saved the government from an embarrassing series of refusals from all these TikTokers. But yes, I think we can all see that policy is going absolutely nowhere. So congratulations again on your scoop, Matt. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.